back to Inside Boxing's Throwdown. I'm Aurelio Martinez, and my partner Steve Johnson wanted to jump the gun, man. He just wanted to bring us in.
I did.
But anyhow, this segment is our third and final segment of the week. It's always open discussion. We just kind of talk about topics we want to talk about, and we got a few of them. Mm-hmm. I do want to mention within the subject the comment that came in from Pound for Pound, based on
Punch for Pound. You call me
Punch
Pound for Pound.
He'd love that.
Punch for Pound.
He'd love that. So
okay. But before you do that, real quick, I want to mention next Saturday night's fight, which is going to be, I believe, it's televised on HBO. I think it's HBO, yeah. Where we'll have Billy Joe Saunders from England. He'll be fighting David Lemieux from Canada. The fight's going to be up in Quebec.
It's going to be a good fight.
Well, it's for the WBO World Middleweight title. It's definitely going to be a good fight.
Good fight. Yeah.
You know, really, I had been a fan of Billy Joe Saunders until he pulled that crap at his last fight with his son, trying to punch our boy in the balls. I didn't care for that, and he actually condoned it. He said, we teach our kids, anybody puts their hands on you. And all the guy was doing was just said, hey, you know, the little guy. You know, after that, I can't be a fan of his. But David Lemieux is definitely one that has to be watched. He can pull this off.
I'll tell you, there again, David Lemieux got good ring generalship. And I can't stress how much movement in the ring, how much of a positive it is for a fighter, because anyone that's been in the ring and fought, it's easy to fight someone that's right in front of you because now it becomes a chess match, pop, 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 and you fight. But when you got someone moving and you're actually trying to hit a moving target, the difficultness of landing that solid punch is upgraded so high that I can't stress, and that's what David Lemieux is going to bring. So I'll tell you what, if I had to go out on the limb, I'd say David's going to win this fight.
I couldn't go out on that limb.
Yeah, okay.
I like him a lot. I
Yeah.
really do. He's pretty unorthodox, and he throws punches from different angles where he's a factor. But Billy Joe Saunders, man, like I said, as much as
He's tough.
can't
tough
care for him now, he looks the part. When you folks watch when they take off his robe in the ring, you're like, man, that dude looks like it. Now we got to see what he can do, and he can go. Okay,
You know. Good.
Let's just move on to this because, Radio, I want you to talk about Punch for Pound. Appreciate Punch for Pound. First of all, we get a lot of letters, emails. We don't respond to most of them because most of them, to be honest, are just too nonsense. They're critical. But every now and then we come across one that makes some good points. And Radio, talk about Punch for Pound.
Well, you know what? We love all the boxing fans around the world. Okay, because it's a sport that everybody loves. I mean, it's something, and most of the time people will comment based on their fanfare, on who they like, and something you said negative about what they like. So we're used to that. I think every talk show out there is used to this. And then don't let me forget to talk about Teddy Atlas and Stephen Smith on my come on.
Oh,
okay?
yes.
But anyway, let me just. And I can't read this whole comment because it's probably 600 words or something. Okay, but the points he makes in his comment, Punch for Pound, he commented on our last week's show when we were talking about the upcoming fight between Lomachenko
and Guillermo Viera now.
Yeah.
But temper this. Remember that Punch per Pound is obviously a huge fan.
Well, he is.
Vasil
in his
Lomachenko.
comment show, because he was a little upset that I particularly said that he had showed weaknesses. Lomachenko had showed weaknesses by not being able to accomplish what he had set to do when he stepped in the ring on his previous fight, and then he reverted to showboating. Okay, and I said, well, he came back and he was a little upset that I had said that showboating was a weakness, and he mentioned Floyd Mayweather and some of the other Muhammad Ali even mentioned about showboating, but the difference between them is they backed it up. Okay, they didn't crawl back into showboating just to because they couldn't accomplish what they did. They used it as an asset. But anyhow, I still say yes, it is a weakness when you can't go out and do what you want to do, so you revert. It tells me that basically you don't have a plan B when you're faced with adversary in the ring. and I stand by that. So won't argue, won't bow by that. But one comment that he did say, Steve, was that that we were lazy in our analysis. Okay, no, we're not lazy in our analysis, and I can see where you would come with saying we're lazy in our analysis, but we're real. We're real. We don't take sides because we're a fan of any fighter. We comment because we're real. We comment on what we see is real in the ring, weaknesses, strengths, whatever it is. So I mean, well, maybe you're lazy sometimes.
Hey man, you trying to make you caught me off guard with that. Let me tell you, the only problem I have with Punch Per Pound is when he and then to his credit at the end. Let me read to you exactly what he said at the end so you get my drift. He said, "Except for this video, I like the other videos you did in the past. Keep up the good work." That got me off your ass pretty much right there when he said that, because once again, all we do is give opinions. This is an opinion. We appreciate the opinion. But when you several times say that you guys were just lazy and didn't do your work, that's because it didn't have the conclusion that you wanted to have. And I understand that, but just temper it the right way. And you ended it the right way that actually made it a good email to read. But let me just say this. When you tell me that you make references to Gary Russell Jr. and say he fought Gary Russell, and then you said after Gary Russell had, 25 fights or something like that? It doesn't matter. Lomachenko had, 400, 500 amateur fights?
Yeah.
Okay? Rigondeaux had, 400, 450. You know what, man? We all know that the guys that come up and they have these 200, 300, 400 amateur fights, it's similar to, having 8 or 9 pro fights when it all settles down. And especially when you look at the kids from the Ukraine and from Cuba. When they come over, they're actually look at Lomachenko. Lomachenko was 26 years old, okay? He's only had, 17, 18 fights?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah.
No. That was Rigondeaux. Lomachenko's had 10 pro fights? Yeah, he's like 10. He's got 9, 10 or 11 pro fights.
But he hasn't had very many.
Yeah, but see, that's what I'm saying. But his amateur career extended far into what our amateurs are, into what our kids have a pro career. So, we can debate back and forth all we want to. Bottom line is I will say this to you. I appreciate you watching. I've said it. I say that at every show, and I do mean that. We appreciate the emails. We appreciate text messages. Just knowing that you're watching, we appreciate it, and we will take into consideration what he said.
Let me tell.
But it's not going to change everything.
Let me just go on and say I am going to give you credit on one thing I said, because I did mention, and I continue to mention that his opponents have been subpar. You mentioned a couple of names in your comments that I have to give you credit, and you're absolutely right. When you mentioned the name that he fought, Salido and Gary Russell Jr.,
you call them subpar?
I mentioned in our commentary that he was fighting subpar opponents, and Salido and Russell are far from subpar. So I'll give you all the credit for that.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Okay,
they're not.
I was going to say because Salido beat him, and Gary Russell beat him too. He won that on a split decision. And I thought Gary Russell won it too. Okay. So there we go.
Okay, so good. But let's finish this with our come on man.
Hold on. Let me set this right. Let me set this up right, because we haven't done this in a while. Come on, man, help me.
Come on.
God damn. Come on, man. Good Lord.
I didn't know where.
I almost choked, man, over here trying to hold on, bring you in on this. But anyway,
I didn't know where he was going, man. But yeah,
help me out.
This is a segment we had a lot of times. We're bringing it in and come on, man. Now, my come on, man, and this is gonna be our come on, man, for this week. I got to say the come on, man is after the fight this week on ESPN. Of course, obviously Teddy Atlas must have been very butthurt that he wasn't an analyst, that they pulled him off being a commentator on this particular fight. and it was commentating. And it was kind of nice not to hear him in there talking about their firemen and their everything else. And
a lot of people said that they missed him being in there.
Well, yeah, I mean, but what I'm saying, he didn't. But after the fight, they started talking to Stephen A. Smith and Teddy Atlas. And let me tell you, these guys got into a vibrant, an ugly argument against each other. Now, anyone that had a chance to listen to that, they were arguing with each other, Steve, but they were saying the same thing. They were saying the same thing. It's just the references they were making. Of course, Stephen A. Smith was blasting Teddy Atlas, putting words in his mouth, and then Teddy Atlas was coming back making references to, I don't know, it wasn't a fireman reference, but he made references to something in relation but they're arguing and they're saying the same thing. Bottom line, they're saying the same thing. So that's come on, man, don't waste our time with that kind of baloney.
You know what, man, it's funny that this is one of the few times that I can't even debate this with you, because when the fight was over, and I can't remember who it was, said, now let's welcome in Stephen A. Smith and Teddy Atlas, I turned it off. I don't care to listen to their nonsense.
I know you don't like either one of them.
No, I don't. And I think, I think it's born that everyone can see that if there's one thing that I've ever been right about, I know you like to point out what I'm wrong about, but if I'm right about is that Stephen A. Smith, as our boy, we got to hope the best for Roger Mayweather. He's in the hospital and he's not doing well. But Roger Mayweather coined that phrase, you don't know shit about boxing. And Stephen A. Smith don't know shit about boxing. And so it's hard to listen to him talking. And first of all, you guys know, I've called him for many years now, I've called him Screaming A. Smith. Because he thinks he can just scream over you and make your point. And Teddy Atlas,
the same thing.
That's right. He likes to scream too and try to talk over you.
So
I can't watch them two dudes.
And I don't have a problem with people voicing their opinions and stuff. But the problem I have with both of these, Teddy Atlas, number one, and Stephen A. Smith, the second, is they want to put themselves in the limelight above the participants, above the fighters, they want to be the focus of attention, okay? And they're not. And I don't know why the networks don't sit them down and say, hey, tone it down.
Well, you remember there was a time when we were fans of what Teddy was doing for a while, because he was really trying to be a strong advocate for there being a central czar of boxing, somebody that would, but then he kept putting himself, I should be that person, and most of us know that he should not be that person. So he beat that horse to the point where he knew eventually that wasn't going to happen, and so now he's just kind of like a bitter old man now.
Well, he wants to stay in the limelight. That's what it is. And you mentioned that, and I'm gonna tell you what, I'm one in favor to have a federal commission. I honestly think we need to have a federal commission. Having all these state commissions with their own set of rules, with their own set of egotistic officials that run each state, it's got to stop. It's got to stop, Steve. We have to have one federal commission that's going to set a set of guidelines that's going to be used in the entire United States
and
worldwide if they can handle that.
And when you move outside those guidelines, there's a price to be paid. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had a guy that fought. I can't remember where it was at. I'm sorry to say that, but I think it was Arkansas. Mm-hmm. He was allowed to fight, and they'd already had records show that he was HIV positive.
I read that.
It's nonsense. And if there would be a federal commission in now, not saying that wouldn't happen, but there would be heads roll.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now nobody's doing anything about it.
A lot of things won't happen when there's a price to pay.
Exactly.
Okay? So anyway, we're gonna leave you with that. Come on, man. Again, one more time, because I'm gonna say it to Teddy Atlas, Stephen A. Smith, and ESPN. Come on, man.
That's what I'm talking about. See, I should have left you hanging like you did me the first time. That's what I should have done.
But anyway, that does it for this week. Come back and see us next week, where we'll get some of you guys happy, we'll get some of you guys mad, but whatever the case may be, tell us what you want us to relate to the viewing public, and we'll do that for you.
No, right? My voice will be all the way back by then. All right?
Till then. Keep them hands up.
Hands up, man.